Battleworlds Outbreak.
So I'm doing a new video. It's been a little while. I wanted to do another video, kind of show you guys what's going on. I made a few more changes. So just in the beginning, as we normally do, we're going to do a quick overview of the rules. So right here is where the main deck goes. And then you take your React POW and you put it over here. So I've kind of set it up with two different leagues. We're gonna have the quick league, which is the sparring league or format, however you want to say it. And so in the sparring format, you will have 40 card decks, and you can have a max of 2 copies of any card in your deck, unless it's a unique card, and then you can only have 1 copy. And typically you can have them however you want, but I have, about 10 modifies, 20 actions in my main deck, which is actions modifies, and then my React POW, I have 10 reactions. And you have 60 life in the sparring format. And then the second format is the battle league or the battle format. And the battle format is really where you do like pods or big abomination fights. And so the battle format takes 2 sparring decks and you can combine them together even if they have different sleeves. And so this allows for a little bit of back and forth. You can make sparring decks and you can use them in your battle formats, and then your battle decks are comprised of 2 sparring decks, so you can break them down and you can kind of mix and match and be like, oh, I really like this style, I'm gonna stick to this, but I kind of want to try some different styles to kind of go with it. And then you can even practice on those other styles in the sparring league and utilize that training on the front lines in the war in the battle league. So at the beginning, on everybody's turn, they get 4 action points. So I get 4 action points, my opponent gets 4 action points at the beginning of my turn. And on the cards in the top left corner is the tier, and the tier is also how many action points it costs. So this is a tier 3 card, so I might play this. It must be recycled for my hand. It's a tier 3, so I spent 3 action points going down to 1. And my opponent might respond with a reaction. So once you play an action, your opponent has the opportunity to react. So they might play a all in at the face, which is a counter reaction. But as you can tell, this reaction actually has a tier 5, so it's going to cost them 5 action points. They only have 4 action points, so they're going to actually go over their action points. And anytime that you go over your action points, your opponent gets to draw a card. Or in the battle format, all opponents get to draw a card. So when you go over, I would get to draw a card in response, and then I would have the chance to modify. I'm not going to modify, and then my opponent would have the chance to modify the reaction. Now, even if you have no action points, you're always allowed to modify an action or reaction. So then we're going to close out this action phase. So they will have stopped my attack with a counter, and they're going to be allowed to freely play a tier 3 card from their hand, and it gains undodgeable and unstoppable. And then this card allows me to bury 3, so I'll bury 3 cards, and then allows me to return a tier 5 or lower card that was buried to the top of my deck. So I will return this. You must recycle it all to the top of the deck. And then we will send these cards to our combo or skill zone. So I'm going to send this to my combo zone. They will send this to their combo zone. And then they will have the opportunity to play their action from the hand. So then they're going to play a power kick to the face. Now this has a plus AP 1, so you can, as before, this was already being freely played. They can spend the extra action points. They already went over their action points for their turn, so it's not going to allow for the opponent to draw another card. So they're just going to come at me with a full power kick to the face with the extra AP. So technically it's going to cost 4, but they can freely play it. So they're coming at me for 10 damage, and then whenever an action is played, you add your combo to that action's damage. So this action does 10 damage, and then you're going to add the 1 combo. So it's going to be coming at me for 11. I will respond with a recognized pattern, so I will go over my action points, and then my opponent would be allowed to draw a card, and then they would have the opportunity to play a modifier if they want, and then I have the opportunity to play a modifier if I want. I'm not going to. And then we will go to the end of the action phase, where the deflect reactions make it so both players will reveal the top card of their deck, and whoever reveals the highest tier card wins. Since I just buried and sent this one back to the top, I know I had a tier 5 at the top. My opponent has a tier 3, so I will deflect that action. And this deflect also says if I successfully deflect, I gain 2 action points. So then I will gain 2 action points back. It's the end of the action phase, so then we will send these. So I will send this to my combo zone. They will send this to their combo zone. And then it's still my turn, and I still have 2 action points. So I'm going to play a knee shot. I know my opponent is out of action points, and so I'm gonna hit them with this knee shot. So it's gonna be 6 plus 4 if they don't play reaction. So it's coming at them for 10 plus my combo, which is 3. So I'm coming at my opponent for 13. My opponent doesn't have a reaction, but then I still have a chance to modify. And as I said before, you can always modify. So I will modify with a I'm the best at this. And so this modifier doesn't do anything to the particular action phase, but once it gets into the skill zone, if I have 5 ego skill, so if I have 5 skill of cards that have the ego subtype, then whenever I reveal a card, I can count it as 1 tier higher. So if I reveal a card for deflects, I can count them as 1 tier higher. So then I'm going to do 13 damage to my opponent. And whenever you do damage to somebody, for every 5 damage that you do, they have to send a card from their combo zone to the discard pile. So since I did 13 damage, they'd have to send 2 cards from their combo zone to the discard pile. They have 2 cards in their combo zone, and then they would go to the discard pile. Now, if they had no cards in their combo zone, they would have to send 2 cards from their skill zone to the discard pile. But it does not roll over. So if they only had 1 card in their combo zone and I did 13 damage, they would only have to remove the 1 from their combo zone, and it would not roll over to 1 from the skill zone as well. It would just be the 1 from the combo zone. So it gives you a little bit of an opportunity to defend your skill zone, and there will be cards that specifically target the skill zone, but in the actual combat, you're really just messing with each other's momentum, their combo, and if you mess them up enough, you're going to go into their skill. Alright, so that is a quick rundown of the rules. So we're actually going to set up now for an Abomination match and give you a little playthrough so you can understand the gameplay a little better. Alright, so I'm going to use these dice to help represent how many action points we have left. To go to visual aid, we're going to each have 60 life because I'm showing you the sparring format. It's a lot quicker formats. And then this is the Abomination's action pile and the Abomination's reaction pile. So on the Abomination's turn, they will flip over actions until they have used all their action points. And then on my turn, they will flip over reactions in response to any actions I play until either I or they run out of action points, depending on how the match goes. At the beginning of the game, you draw 4 from your main deck, and you draw 3 from your react pile. You can send any cards that you don't like to the bottom of your deck and draw that many from the same deck that you sent them to. I'm going to keep my hand, and so normally when I do the Abomination, I always have the Abomination start, and I will have the Abomination start. So we have a Smashing Heads Bash. So this is coming at me for 6 damage, and it's committed where if I don't play a reaction response, they're going to gain a action point. Committed also is if I do play a reaction response, it goes to the discard pile instead of the combo zone. So I am going to actually do a figuring out opponent. So my opponent spent 2, I spent 2 on this, and this is a deflect reaction. The Abomination doesn't have modifies, they're just mindless creatures, so no modify. I am going to choose not to modify my card, and then we will flip over the top cards for the deflect. So I had a 3 and my opponent had a 4, so I did not successfully deflect their attack. So I will take the 6 damage. And then we will send these cards to our skill or combo zone, but the committed is if a reaction was played, it goes to the discard pile. So we're going to send the Smashing Heads Bash to the discard pile, and I'm going to spend this. I'm going to send this over to my combo. And then my opponent still has 2 action points, so they will flip over another card. So this is costing 4 action points, so they will go over. When they go over their 4 action points, I am allowed to draw a card, so I will draw a card from my react pile. And this is another committed. This is coming at me for 9. Alright, so then I will go over with a tier 4 deflect. Going over, when the Abomination gets to draw a card, you just send the top card of their main deck to the combo zone. I'm not going to play any modifiers. My opponent's not going to modify. We will flip over the top cards to see what the deflect is. Mine is a 3. They have a 1 this time. So I will successfully deflect this attack. And then in the rhythm does say, on success I gain 2 action points. So I will get 2 action points back. I did play a reaction in response to this committed card. So the committed card won't go to the combo zone. It'll go to the discard pile. And then I will send this to my skill zone. And then the Abomination is out of action points, so they will pass turn. So we will both go back up to 4 action points. I will draw for my turn. I am going to do a tier 1. If it works, recycle it. It's coming at my opponent for 1 damage plus my combo, which is 2, so it's coming at my opponent for 3 damage. We spent 1 action point, so go down to 3. My opponent will flip over. They flip over a 2. So this responds to tier 3 or lower action. This is a tier 1 action, so that's correct. And it has retaliate. So they will not send any cards from their combo zone to the discard pile as a result of damage taken this action phase. And then they will be able to, at the end of this action phase, immediately play the top card, start a new action phase, and play the top card of their deck. So I will come through and hit for 3 damage. This card's effect will go off and I will bury 3. So 1, 2, 3. And then I can select a tier 3 or lower card and send it back to the top of the deck. I will send this one to the top. Then we will send these cards to our combo or skill zone. So I'm going to send this over to my combo. They will send this over to their combo. And then because they retaliate, they get to retaliate against me with the top card of their deck. It does say freely play, so it's not going to cost them any action points. So they were actually coming at me for 7, plus their combo count is 2 right now. So they will be coming at me for 9 damage. I'm going to take the 9 damage. So I will take the 9 damage, going down to 45. Since it was 1 increment of 5, I have to send 1 card from my combo zone to the discard pile. So I'll send this. And then Claw Strike will go to their combo zone. And then it's still my turn. I'm going to go over with a You Must Recycle It All, spending all my action points to allow my opponent to draw a card. So they will send the top card of their deck to their combo zone. And then they still have 2 action points, so they can react. So they will flip this. This is a tier 2, so they spend exactly what they have. Well, technically, no. This card can only react to a tier 3 or lower action. Since I have a tier 5 action, this card actually does not get played and it will just go straight into the combo zone. So they have no response to You Must Recycle It All. So I will then modify it with a I don't need this, and it has salvage 2, total tier 6. So I can send 2 cards, that's total tier 6, from 1 discard pile to the void, and then add the combined combo of the salvage cards to my damage. So I'm actually going to take these 2 cards, committed cards from my opponent that I had sent to the discard pile, and put them in their void, adding the combo of 3 and 2, so adding 5 damage to this attack. This will be 5 to its original 7, and then I have 2 combo. So I'm going to be coming at my opponent for 14 damage. And then since they weren't able to play a reaction, I'm going to hit them for 14, bringing them down to 43. And then I get to send, since it was 2 increments of 5, 2 cards from their combo zone to the discard pile. So I will send this 2 and this 1. And then I can send these to my skill combo zone. So I will send this to my combo, this to my combo, and actually at the end of the action phase, I get to use this card's effect. So I'll bury 4 and then send 1 tier 5 or lower to the top of my deck. So I'll send this tier 4 to the top of my deck, and then this is going to go to my combo zone, and that will end my turn. So it'll be the Abomination's turn. We both go back to 4 action points, and then we will flip this. So boom, they're coming with the tier 5, so they're going over. I get to draw a card in response. I will draw 1 from my react pile. Then their combo is 2, and this is a 6, so they're coming for 8 damage. I am actually going to just take the 8 damage, so that put me down to 37. And that was 1 increment of 5, so I will send 1 card from my combo zone to the discard pile, and then they can send this to their combo zone. That brings their combo up to 5, and then it is my turn. So we both go back to 4 action points. I will draw for turn, and I will come through with Buried Treasure. So this is coming at my opponent for 6, plus I have 5 combos, so for 11, and it was 3. So I go down to a 1. We will flip this. It's a 4, so they will spend all their action points, and this is a deflect. So we will both reveal the top cards of our deck. I reveal a 3, they revealed a 2, so they were not able to deflect my action. And so I will come through for the 11 damage, bringing my opponent down to 32. And I get to send 2 cards. So I will send these 2, but this Body Rejuvenation has a reactive effect where when it is sent to the discard pile from the combo zone, they get to restore 8 life. So my opponent will restore 8 life, going back up to 40. And then we will send these to our zone. So I will send this to my skill zone. We will send Beastly Instincts to their combo zone. I still have 1 action point left. So I will play the recycled supplies going over, allowing my opponent to draw a card. they don't have any reactions, I will come through for 7 plus 5, so 12 damage, and then I will also get to bury 4, so I will bury 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I can send 1 tier 5 or lower back to the top of my deck that was just buried. I will send this hindering terrain to the top of the deck, so I did 12 damage, so I'll bring my opponent down to 28, and since I did 2 increments of 5, I will send this and this to their discard pile. That leaves my opponent's combo at 3. I'll send this to my combo zone. Now in my turn, so we will go to the Abomination's turn. We will both go back to the 4 action points, and we will flip over their action. So we have regrown appendages. It's a tier 5, so they went over. I will draw a card in response. I do not really have a reaction for this, so I'm going to take the 7 plus the 3 combos, so 10 damage, bringing me down to 27, and I have to send 2 cards from my combo zone. So real quick, what I'm going to do before this happens, so I'm just going to send these 2 here, and then this is going to go over here. What I want to do real quick is this buried treasure. So this buried treasure has a skill zone ability where if I have synergy 2, which is if I have at least 2 other cards that share a type with it, so I have 2 other cards that are scavenger cards, then I can send this card from my skill zone to the discard pile to return a tier 3 card to the combo zone from my discard pile. So I send this here. I'll return this tier 3 to my combo zone. And then that will finish my opponent's turn. So it will go to my turn. We'll both have 4 action points. I will draw for turn. I am going to come through with a hindering terrain, spending 3 action points. My opponent gets a reaction. So did you see that? Reacts to tier 4 lower action. It's a beast deflect. So we will both, well, I am not going to play any modifiers. My opponent will modify. So then we will go to the net action phase. We will both reveal. So I revealed the 3, they revealed the 2. So their deflect did not successfully deflect mine. But this is a beast deflect that says if the revealed card for the deflect was a beast card, you can send it to a zone instead of back to the top of the deck. So this will actually go into the combo zone. And then this card is coming at my opponent for 5 damage, and I have 5 combo, so for 10 damage. So I do 10 damage, and I can send 2 cards from their zone to the discard pile. They have a bunch of heals and stuff now. So I'm going to send this and maybe this to away, so this as a reactive, so they will restore 6 life. So bring the Abomination back up to 24, and then we'll send these to our zones. So I send this to my skill zone, send this to their combo zone. Their combo is currently at 6. They had spent 3, so they only have 1 action point left. I have 1 action point left, so then I will come through with the knee shot going over. When I go over, they get to draw a card, and then they get the opportunity to react. So this is a block. They go over as well though, so I am allowed to draw a card. And then this blocks 9 damage, and if they don't take any damage as a result of blocking this, then it will demoralize me 1, forcing me to send a card from one of my zones to the discard pile. This is coming at my opponent for 6. It doesn't get the extra 4 because the reaction was played in response, but I do have a combo of 5, so coming at my opponent for 11 damage. They block 9, so they would take 2, and then we will finish out the action phase. Since the reaction was played in response to this committed card, this will actually go to my discard pile instead of a zone. This will go to their combo zone, and then it will be my opponent's turn. We will go back to our 4 action points, and then my opponent will play an action. So they're going to go over. I will draw a card in response. This is a tier 5, and their combo is at 8, and it has 6. They're coming for 14. So I will respond with a on the face. Reacts to tier 5 lower physical action, going over my action points, allowing them to draw a card. And then we will close out the action round. I can freely play a tier 3 from my hand, and again it's undodgeable and unstoppable. So I will send this to my combo zone. They will send this to their combo zone. And then I get to respond with a counter. Actually, I cannot counter because I don't have an action. That is going to end their turn, so then it's going to become my turn. I will draw for turn. So we both have 4 action points. Alright, this is a little risky, but I think we're going to have to do it. I will play recycled supplies. So this costs all 4. My opponent will then get to flip over a reaction. So they went over, allowing me to draw. I will draw from here, and then it's a deflection. So I'm actually going to modify my card. So I spent 4 action points exactly on my action, not going over. And as I mentioned before, you can always play and modify even if you don't have action points. So in this case, I'm going to modify. It's a tier 3, but since me playing the modify actually is the timing that I'm going over 4 action points, because I would be spending 3, my opponent will get to draw a card for this modify. So they would draw a card in response, and then this modifier has distract 2, and I can target 2 ununique cards in any combo zone and send them to the discard pile. So I'm going to send Thorns 4 and this Copper Scales to the discard pile. And so the Thorns does 4 damage to me, bring me down to 23. Then we're going to go to the end of the action phase. We're going to run this deflect. So we'll flip both cards. I got a 3, they got a 4. So they will successfully deflect my attack. And then recycled supplies allows me to bury 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I can send one of these that's tier 5 or lower back to the top of the deck. When resolving the card effects, we usually go backwards. So action, reaction, modify, modifies. Then we go modify, modify, reaction, action on settling out the effects. Okay, so this also on success gives them 3 action points back. I want to close out this action phase. So I'm going to send this to my combo. I'm going to send this to my combo. They're going to send this to their combo. Okay, so technically they are at 14 combo right now. And I had spent all my action points, so that is going to end my turn. So we'll go back to 4s. We'll flip over the top card of the deck. It's a tier 4 coming at me for 29 damage. I think that's going to be game. So I'm going to do a distract opponent, and then they would have a chance to modify. They won't modify. And then I'm going to shift this to a deflect reaction. I'm actually going over, so we're going to send one of these into their zones. So as I said before, we're going to work backwards. So first, we're going to attempt to deflect. So we will flip both of these. I actually got a 3, and they had a 2. So I will successfully deflect their action. It would go to their modifier, and then it would go to my reaction. My reaction has a distract 2, so I can send 2 cards from their combos onto the discard pile. So I'll send this, and don't want them to heal, so I'll just send this. And then their card was deflected, so it doesn't do any damage, so send it to their zone, or send these to my zones, both to my combo, and then it'll be my turn, and I will draw for turn. My turn, I'm going to come through with a kickoff balance. My opponent will play a reaction. We have a reflexive swat that actually reacts to a tier 2 or lower, so it won't spend any action points, and it's just going to fizzle into their combo zone. And so I will be hitting my opponent for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have 12 combo, and he does 3, so for 15 damage. So bringing them down to 7. Also, this allows me to draw a card, so I'll draw 1 card. Since I did 15, I can send 3 cards. So I will send the 3 that don't have reactive effects. 1, 2, and 3. And then I will send this to my combo zone. And then my next phase, I will do a power kick to the face with the +1 AP going over, so they can send 1 card from the top of their deck into their zone. And then they have a chance to react. They go over on their points, allow me to draw a card. I will draw this. But my opponent gets Onslaught, so right now they're at 12. Okay, so Onslaught says immediately start a new action phase, and then they can play the top card of the deck. So new action phase, they're attacking me with the Body Rejuvenation, which they have 12 combo, and it has 4, so they're coming at me for 16. I actually have no action points, so I'm going to need to take the 16, which is going to bring me down to 7. And with 16, I need to send 3 cards, so I'm going to send these 3 cards to my discard pile. We'll close out the action phase, send this over here. Then we go back to my action phase, where I am coming at my opponent with 10, and then I have 11 combo, so I'm coming at my opponent for 21. I am going to hit for 21 damage, and they only have 7 life left. Well, actually, technically, we were both at 7 life right there. But they only had 7 life left, and then a dramatic power kick to the face will finish the Abomination off. Death! Death, death, death! So Abominations died, and I won. I thought I was definitely dead there for a second. But if you've watched the video all the way to this point, I really appreciate you being here and checking this out. I hope if you have any feedback, please post a comment. Go over to battleworldsoutbreak.com, check us out. Right now I'm actually really trying to work on getting some print and plays ready, so those will be available so you can print them off and you can try the game for yourself and then give me feedback and let me know, you know, your experience and what you liked, maybe what you didn't like, and how we can actually turn this into something great. So once again, I really appreciate you being here and have a wonderful day. Thank you.